Granite State is the 15th episode of the 5th season of the American television drama series Breaking Bad, and the 61st and penultimate episode of the series. Written and directed by Peter Gould, it aired on AMC in the United States and Canada on September 22, 2013. Plot: Saul Goodman is brought by the extractor, Ed, to his base, an actual vacuum repair shop. There he finds Walt, who also paid for extraction. Both have to stay together for a few days while their arrangements are made. Walt asks Saul to put him in contact with hitmen so he can kill Jack and his men and recover the other barrels of money, but Saul refuses. Saul tells Walt that by giving himself up, Skyler might still keep their house instead of losing it to the authorities. Walt can only think of doing so once his entire wealth is recovered and given to his family, though the police are monitoring any contact between them and Walt. When his transportation is ready, Saul is taken to Nebraska with a new identity. Jack and his men raid Marie Schrader's house and find Jesse's confession tape. Jack and his men wish to kill Jesse, but Todd needs him to cook more meth, having taken a liking to Lydia. Shortly after, they break into Walt's house and threaten Skyler not to reveal Lydia's existence, since Skyler could identify Lydia from her visit to the car wash, to which a shaken Skyler complies. Lydia visits Todd and wants a break from their operation because of all the heat, but she reconsiders after he reveals that the meth composition is now at 92% purity due to Jesse. At Jack's base of operations, Jesse uses a paperclip to unlock his chains and tries to run, but he is captured by Jack and his men. The gang punishes him by taking him to Andrea's house and shooting Andrea while he watches. They threaten to kill Brock if he disobeys again. Walt is taken by Ed to his new location, a secluded cabin in the woods of New Hampshire. He is told that he will be recognized and caught if he chooses to leave the cabin and the 2 acres around it. Walt feels sad that he needs to hide. He is tempted from the first day to walk out, but he doesn't. Sometime later, in a disheveled state, Walt has a full beard and head of hair. Ed arrives on his monthly visit to drop off food and supplies, including an assortment of eyeglasses and a chemotherapy dose which Walt requested. Ed tells Walt that Skyler has returned to using her maiden name, and that she works as a part-time taxi dispatcher to earn money, and that she and Walt Jr. have left their house. There is a nationwide manhunt for Walt and his vacant house has become something of a tourist attraction, but also vandalized due to its abandonment. A lonely Walt pays Ed $10,000 to stay for an extra hour and play cards with him. Later, Walt stuffs $100,000 into a cardboard box and leaves the cabin grounds. He goes into a local bar and pays the barmaid to call Walt Jr.'s school pretending to be Marie, and Walt Jr. is pulled from class to answer the call. Walt tries reconciling with his son. To get around the police, Walt tells him that he is going to send a box with $100,000 to Walt Jr.'s friend Louis, but that he should take it and give it to Skyler. Though initially emotional, Walt Jr. becomes enraged that Walt would attempt to give him his drug money, especially due after the murder of Hank and everything that has happened. Walt argues that everything he did cannot be for nothing, but Walt Jr. ends the call after angrily telling his father to hurry up and die. A dejected Walt uses the payphone to call the DEA and identify himself, leaving the phone hanging so they can trace his location, before going over to the bar and ordering a drink. However, he then sees Elliot and Gretchen Schwartz being interviewed by Charlie Rose on TV. The two of them have made a $28 million contribution for drug rehabilitation in the southwestern states. Rose asks whether this was a publicity stunt to make amends for their association with Walt, a co-founder of their company, while also mentioning that the supply of blue meth continues without him. Walt is angered when Elliot and Gretchen openly dismiss his contribution to Gray Matter Technologies and, before the police arrive, he decides to flee. Production. On September 18, 2013, it was announced that both Granite State and Felina would run 75 minutes, including commercials. The episode title refers to the nickname of New Hampshire, which is where Walt is relocated upon being given a new identity. Parts of the phone call of Walter and Walter Jr. needed to be reshot, because during the transport a Boeing 737 rolled over the film. This episode marks the final appearance of Andrea Cantillo, who is murdered by Todd Alquist in the episode. Bob Odenkirk also made his final appearance as a series regular in Granite State, as his character, Saul Goodman, moved to Nebraska. However, Odenkirk will return as Saul in the upcoming spin-off to Breaking Bad, entitled Better Call Saul. Reception: the episode was watched by 6.58 million viewers on its original broadcast. The episode received unanimous critical acclaim, with critics commenting on how the change of pace from the previous week's explosive episode allowed for a more contemplative narrative. Peter Gould was nominated for the Writers Guild of America Award for Television, Episodic Drama for this episode. References. External links: Granite State at the official Breaking Bad site, Granite State at the Internet Movie Database, Granite State at TV.com. Further reading: Tim Goodman. Breaking Bad Deconstruction, Ep. 15, Granite State. The Hollywood Reporter A.